GTR. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight on how I keep my car maintained and cleaned since it is black. So whenever you have a black car, unfortunately, every single imperfection, stain, piece of dirt is just so easy to see. It stands out like a sore thumb. So you have to do a little bit more work to keep it clean and maintained. I'm gonna show you guys my whole process and how I do it. And maybe you guys learn a new thing or two. Or you can tell me exactly how you guys maintain your car. Comment down below. Let's go and see how dirty this thing is, because it's nasty. So we're gonna look at the hood first. You do see a couple spots here and there. It's looking like tree sap or bird droppings. Either way, that stuff will be able to be washed. You can see a lot of grime and loose dirt, dust on the top, the surface of the paint. That's what we're mainly trying to remove. And it's not coated, so it won't come off as easily, but go down to the wheels. There's some brake dust caked up all over the place, in between the spokes, corners. Yeah, it's a bit messy. It's a bit messy, especially in the exhaust pipes and the exhaust tips. They are black from all the exhaust. Oh man, just look at all those bugs. That's what I get for driving in the back roads at nighttime. Yeah, as if I could ever avoid them. You really can't, not in the summertime. Now, we eventually do want to wash most of that dirt that's in the wheel well and the liner, but right now I'm going to focus on spraying some of this highly acidic cleaner on the face of the wheel and everywhere on it. The nuts, the spokes, barrel, everything. And once you have it on there, you start scrubbing. This bucket is filled with a bunch of brushes that are used for cleaning a wheel. You can use long ones like this to get deep within the wheel well. There's also short ones that you can get that can reach in between very thin and hard to reach areas, thin spokes. There are brushes that are actually arced as well, so that you can get behind the spokes, which is a really hard area to get by hand if you're not taking the wheels off. So all of these tools make it significantly easier to clean wheels. Now I switched over to a brush that can cover a lot more area to shorten my time spent on these wheels. You can definitely spend a lot of time on wheels, especially if you don't have ceramic brake pads. Some of them are going to dust more than others, but they're always going to dust a bit less than whatever brake pads that come factory with some models like Porsches and Range Rovers. Man, do they dust up like crazy. As you can see, most of the brake dust has broken down by now. It does take a bit, I would say about 2 to 5 minutes. Then you can use any kind of brush. I typically use anything that is medium when it comes to softness and roughness, and the medium in the scale, like right in between, just so I don't end up scratching the rims. And depending on how they're finished, you definitely don't want to go too aggressive. And I use the short-haired brush for any tires that seem to be covered with mud or any loose dirt as well. It's not as soft, it's a bit rougher, so you can get a little bit more aggressive with this. This is one of my favorite tools. It's angled perfectly to get behind the spokes, so there really isn't any excuse to miss certain spots. And I'll use a brush like this to get in between very tight areas, and especially around the lug nuts and bolts. And I also use it to clean the calipers as well. Last but not least, we want to get into the wheel well. Usually there is a lot of dirt and other debris that is trapped within that layer of insulation. The fabric catches most of that dirt. I'm just going to have to use the pressure washer to go ahead and wash most of that off, if not using the brush to scrub it off. All right, now that most of the brake dust has loosened up, if not brushed out, it's time to go ahead and rinse it off. And there you have it. Wheel is completely clean and free of all brake dust. Looks nice. Of course, now we come to the front end, which is absolutely destroyed by bugs. Oh man, I can't tell you how much I hate bugs in general. And seeing them on my front bumper just makes me cringe so much. So I'm gonna get these off as soon as possible. Now, if a pressure washer doesn't get it all off by itself, you can use some acidic chemicals. Just don't go overboard, then you end up messing with the paint as well. Especially in the front bumpers, any plastic pieces, there's not much clear, if not, barely any clear at all on these pieces. So just be very careful. Now, when you're working with a black car, they are very difficult to keep up with in terms of just making sure that everything is moist and wet on the car. If you leave water stand for too long, of course, it starts evaporating, and all the dirt that's settling on top of that water starts leaving etching spots all over the car or water spots. It's not just the dirt that causes this, but also the sun rays that start refracting and reflecting light all through the water, and it almost acts as a magnifying glass. All of that heat and light enters through the water drops and basically magnifies all the heat and light, ends up burning etches through, depending on what shape the water drop is. Well, at least that's the way that I can describe it. But you definitely want to keep on rinsing the car over and over again as you keep on going around and cleaning the car. So just keep that in mind when you're working with darker colors. It's a lot more impervious to water spots than anything else, especially when you're dealing with hard water in your state. It doesn't really matter what kind of shampoo you use, just as long as it has a decent amount of lubrication, some suds, which is really important for basically leaving as minimal damage as possible whenever you're using a mitt or any kind of cloth. Anything usually does leave some sort of scratching behind, so keep a watch for that. But you also want a shampoo to be pH neutral, just so it doesn't end up leaving etching trails and essentially burning through your clear coat or your coating and protection that you have on the car already. If you ever wonder why it's easier to just wash from top to bottom, it's just essentially gravity just pulls everything towards the ground. So naturally, when you rinse a car or anything, water flows downwards. So it pushes all of that soap and suds downwards onto the ground, making it a lot easier to manage soap. Instead of just washing it from bottom to top, that would leave a lot more soap all over the place. You do see that I'm using the same brush that I use to clean the wheels to get into these exhaust pipes. You don't have to necessarily do that. You can use any kind of microfiber towel, just as long as you use some kind of acidic cleaner to break up the exhaust buildup. Other than that, should be all clean, nice and shiny. This part is definitely critical to make sure that everything is cleaned and dried properly. If not, you're going to be dealing with a lot of water spots and etchings as well, depending on how long the water is sitting on there for and how sunny it is. The sun, as well as dirt and sitting water, those are your worst enemies, and you want to eliminate all of those as soon as possible. My technique when drying a car is similar to when I was washing it. You just start from the top and work your way to the bottom. You try to dry all the water on the bottom. Gravity will pull all of those water droplets down to wet that surface again anyways. So you just work from top to bottom naturally. Also, a cool trick to use when you're dealing with cracks and some areas that are really hard to reach with a towel itself. You could use a leaf blower of some sort, or some kind of air blower. Anything that can blow warm air or air in general, so that you can get water out of these areas that are hard to reach. I tend to use a leaf blower, and usually that is enough to get most of that water out. Unfortunately, I feel like there's always going to be some water coming out somewhere. It's honestly like just some leaky faucet that just cannot stop. It's infuriating, but you can only do so much to dry the car, and I'm not spending that much time, so I'm not going to be whipping out the leaf blower anytime soon to get that done. But towels are efficient enough, and after it's all dried up, can't wait to show you guys the final product. The Camaro is finally looking pretty dang good. Not quite where I want it to be, of course. It still needs correction. It needs protection as well. So we still got a lot of work to do. Now, if you guys want to see the rest of the process, hit that like button and stay tuned, subscribe, because there's gonna be plenty more videos to come to show you guys exactly my process on protecting as well as correcting, and of course other shenanigans. I definitely want to do a POV drive at some point, and also show you guys the ambient lighting as well at nighttime, so some POV night drives as well. So stay tuned for all of that and many more coming up on this channel. But till then, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned.